Frozen fish has become one of the most convenient foods in modern kitchens. It's affordable, easy to store, and packed with nutrients many doctors recommend for adults over 60. Fish provides high-quality protein, heart-protective omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, and essential minerals that help support your brain, joints, muscles, and cardiovascular system. In fact, many health experts suggest eating fish at least 2 to 3 times per week to help reduce inflammation, support memory, and maintain healthy blood circulation as we age. But here's something most people don't realize. The way you thaw, prepare, and cook frozen fish can make a huge difference in how healthy it actually is. Small everyday habits, things that feel completely normal in the kitchen, can quietly destroy delicate omega-3 fats, damage the texture of the fish, and in some cases even create food safety risks. Many people unknowingly thaw fish in ways that allow bacteria to grow. Cook it at temperatures that dry out the flesh. Lose valuable nutrients through simple cooking mistakes. And the surprising part? Most home cooks are making at least 2 or 3 of these mistakes without realizing it. That means the fish they're eating may not deliver the full health benefits they expect. Today, we're going to uncover 5 common frozen fish cooking mistakes that many people make, especially when preparing quick meals at home. You'll learn why these mistakes matter for your health, how they affect the nutrients inside fish, and the simple changes that can make your fish safer, more flavorful, and far more nutritious. One of these mistakes is particularly common and can ruin both the texture and nutritional value of your meal if you're not careful. So before you cook your next piece of frozen fish, stay with us until the end, because avoiding these mistakes can help you get the full heart-healthy, brain-protective benefits this incredible food has to offer. Now, let's begin with the first and perhaps most overlooked problem: how people thaw frozen fish. Mistake number 1. Unsafe thawing habits that allow bacteria to grow. Before frozen fish ever reaches your pan or oven, the very first step, thawing, can determine whether your meal turns out safe, nutritious, and delicious, or potentially risky and disappointing. Unfortunately, this is also where many people unknowingly make their first mistake. Fish is one of the most delicate protein foods we eat. Its muscle fibers are softer than red meat and more sensitive to temperature changes. Because of this, improper thawing can quickly lead to bacterial growth and texture damage, even before cooking begins. One of the most common habits people have developed over the years is simply placing frozen fish on the kitchen counter to thaw. It feels convenient and harmless. You take the fillet out in the morning, leave it on a plate, and expect it to be ready by lunchtime. But what actually happens inside the fish tells a different story. As the fish sits at room temperature, the outer layers begin to warm quickly while the center remains frozen. This creates the perfect environment for bacterial growth because the surface of the fish enters what food safety experts call the temperature danger zone, between 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Within this range, bacteria can multiply rapidly. According to food safety guidelines from the United States Department of Agriculture, perishable foods like fish should never be thawed at room temperature for this reason. Even a few hours in this zone can significantly increase the risk of foodborne illness. This is especially important for adults over 60, since the immune system naturally becomes less resilient with age. Food safety practices that may have seemed less critical in younger years become far more important for protecting health later in life. But the counter isn't the only thawing shortcut people use. When someone is in a hurry, another instinct is to place the frozen fish in hot or warm water to speed things up. At first, it seems like a faster and more controlled method. However, this approach creates a similar problem. The outside of the fish warms too quickly while the inside remains frozen. This uneven temperature again exposes the outer layers to bacterial growth before the center has thawed properly. There is also another issue many people never realize. Seafood researchers have found that thawing fish directly in warm water can accelerate a process called protein degradation. In simple terms, the muscle structure of the fish begins to break down, causing something known as drip loss. When drip loss occurs, the fish loses its ability to hold moisture. Even if you cook it perfectly afterward, the flesh may turn out mushy, watery, or bland instead of firm and flavorful. Fortunately, avoiding these problems is surprisingly simple. The safest and most reliable way to thaw fish is to move it from the freezer to the refrigerator the night before cooking. This slow thaw keeps the fish at a consistently safe temperature while preserving its texture and nutritional quality. If you need a faster method, place the fish in a sealed, watertight bag and run cold water over it continuously. This allows the fish to thaw evenly while staying out of the bacterial danger zone. Most fillets will thaw safely within 20 to 30 minutes this way. By correcting these two common thawing habits, you immediately protect both the safety and quality of your fish. Now that your fish is thawed the right way, let's look at the next group of mistakes. Small preparation habits that may seem insignificant but can quietly ruin the texture and flavor of your fish before it even reaches the table. Mistake number 2. Preparation mistakes that quietly ruin fish texture. Once the fish has thawed properly, many people assume the difficult part is over. But in reality, what you do in the next few minutes before cooking can make a huge difference in how your fish turns out. Small preparation habits, things that may seem insignificant, can determine whether the fish becomes firm, flavorful, and tender, or pale, watery, and disappointing. One of the most overlooked steps in preparing fish is removing excess moisture from the surface. After thawing, fish naturally holds a layer of moisture on its exterior. If you place that fish directly into a hot pan or oven without drying it first, that moisture quickly turns into steam during cooking. And steam creates a problem. Instead of forming a light golden crust, the fish essentially steams itself in the pan. The surface stays pale, the texture becomes soft, and the rich flavor that normally develops during cooking never fully forms. Professional chefs know this instinctively, which is why one of their first steps when preparing fish is extremely simple. They pat the fish dry with a paper towel before cooking. It only takes a few seconds, but it allows the surface of the fish to brown properly, creating better texture and deeper flavor. But even after the fish cooks perfectly, another small step is often skipped, letting the fish rest briefly before serving. Many people remove the fish from the pan and immediately cut into it or move it straight to the plate. It feels natural, especially when you're eager to eat. However, fish continues cooking for a short time after it leaves the heat. This is known as carryover cooking. If you cut into the fish immediately, the natural juices inside the flesh escape onto the plate instead of staying within the meat. The result is fish that tastes drier and less flavorful, even if it was cooked correctly. Allowing the fish to rest for just 1 to 2 minutes solves this problem. During this short resting period, the juices redistribute inside the fish, helping the flesh remain moist and tender. Simply cover it loosely with foil and give it a moment before serving. These two small preparation steps, drying the fish before cooking and allowing it to rest afterward, may seem minor, but they can dramatically improve the final result. Your fish will develop better browning, retain more moisture, and deliver a texture that is firm, delicate, and far more enjoyable to eat. Now that we've covered preparation mistakes, let's move on to another group of problems that many home cooks encounter: cooking habits that can quietly destroy both the flavor and the nutrients inside fish. Mistake number 3. Cooking errors that destroy flavor and nutrients. Fish behaves very differently from other proteins like beef or chicken. Its muscle fibers are more delicate, and its healthy fats are more sensitive to heat. That means the way you cook fish directly affects both its texture and its nutritional value. One of the most common mistakes is cooking fish at excessively high temperatures. Many people believe that turning the heat up high will cook fish faster and give it better flavor. This technique works well for some meats, but fish responds very differently. When fish is exposed to very high heat, the proteins in the muscle fibers contract too quickly. This rapid contraction forces moisture out of the flesh, leaving the exterior dry and tough before the inside has had time to cook properly. The result is fish that may look brown on the outside but feels firm, dry, or even rubbery when you take a bite. Fish cooks best with controlled, moderate heat. In a skillet, a temperature between medium and medium-high usually produces the best results. In the oven, most fillets cook beautifully between 375 degrees Fahrenheit and 400 degrees Fahrenheit. These temperatures allow the fish to cook evenly while keeping its natural moisture intact. But high heat isn't the only issue. Another extremely common mistake is overcooking. Overcooked fish is something many people have experienced. The flesh becomes dry, flaky in an unpleasant way, and difficult to chew. The delicate flavor that fish naturally carries is replaced by something bland and tough. However, the problem goes deeper than taste and texture. Research in food science has shown that prolonged exposure to high heat can begin to degrade omega-3 fatty acids, especially EPA and DHA. These compounds are the very nutrients that make fish so valuable for adults over 60 because they support heart health, brain function, and inflammation control. When fish is cooked too long, you may lose some of the very nutrients you were hoping to gain from eating it. Fortunately, determining when fish is done is quite simple. Fish is fully cooked when the flesh just begins to separate easily when pressed with a fork. At this point, the internal temperature should reach 145 degrees Fahrenheit, which is considered safe while still preserving moisture and nutrients. Cooking fish far beyond this point usually means it has already crossed into overcooked territory. There is one more cooking habit that often causes trouble, especially for people trying to save time in the kitchen: cooking fish directly from frozen. Technically, certain thick cuts of fish, such as large salmon portions, can sometimes be cooked directly from frozen in the oven. However, this method rarely works well for the thin fillets most people buy. When a thin frozen fillet is placed in a hot pan, the outside begins cooking immediately while the center remains icy cold. This creates an uneven temperature throughout the fish. The outer layer may quickly become dry and overcooked while the inside struggles to reach a safe temperature. In some cases, the fish may appear fully cooked on the outside even though the interior has not reached 145 degrees Fahrenheit, which raises both texture and food safety concerns. For most everyday fillets under about 1 inch thick, thawing the fish properly before cooking produces far better results. The fish cooks more evenly, retains more moisture, and develops a more delicate flavor. By avoiding these 3 cooking mistakes, using excessive heat, overcooking, or cooking thin fish directly from frozen, you protect both the taste and the nutritional value of your meal. And when fish is cooked properly, it delivers exactly what your body needs: tender texture, rich flavor, and the full benefit of its heart-healthy omega-3 nutrients. Now that we've covered cooking errors, let's move on to something many people overlook entirely when buying frozen fish: the quality of the fish itself. Mistake number 4: buying the wrong type of frozen fish. Even if you thaw your fish correctly and cook it perfectly, there is another factor that many people overlook entirely: the quality of the fish you buy in the first place. Not all frozen fish is created equal. In fact, 2 packages that look almost identical in the freezer section can produce very different results in your kitchen. The difference often comes down to how the fish was frozen and what species you're actually buying. One mistake many shoppers make is assuming that all frozen fish goes through the same freezing process. But in reality, there are 2 main methods used in the seafood industry. The first is traditional or standard freezing. In this process, fish is frozen gradually over time. While this method works, it often allows larger ice crystals to form inside the flesh of the fish. Those large ice crystals can puncture the delicate muscle fibers. When the fish eventually thaws, the damaged fibers release more liquid, causing the fish to lose moisture during cooking. This is one reason some frozen fish turns out soft, watery, or mushy, even when it's cooked carefully. The second method is known as IQF, which stands for individually quick frozen. With IQF technology, fish is frozen extremely rapidly at very low temperatures. Because the freezing happens so quickly, the ice crystals that form inside the fish are much smaller. These smaller crystals cause far less damage to the muscle structure. The result is fish that holds its shape better when thawed, retains more moisture during cooking, and generally provides better texture and flavor once it reaches the plate. This difference may sound subtle, but it can dramatically affect your final meal. That's why many chefs and seafood experts recommend looking for the letters IQF on the packaging when buying frozen fish. But the freezing method isn't the only detail worth paying attention to. Another important factor is the type of fish you choose. Different species of fish offer very different nutritional profiles. Some fish are naturally rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which support heart and brain health. Others contain far less of these beneficial fats. There are also differences in how fish are sourced. Some species are caught in clean waters and processed quickly, while others may come from regions where quality control and sustainability practices vary widely. For consumers, especially adults over 60 who are often eating fish specifically for its health benefits, reading the label carefully can make a real difference. Look for information about the species, the source of the fish, and how it was processed. Starting with a high-quality product makes every step that follows, thawing, preparing, and cooking, much more likely to produce a meal that is both nutritious and enjoyable. Now that we've covered how the type of fish affects your results, let's look at one final detail many shoppers overlook when buying frozen seafood: the protective ice coating that often hides in plain sight on the package. Mistake number 5. Packaging details most people completely overlook. There is one final mistake that many shoppers make before the fish even reaches their kitchen. It doesn't happen during thawing, preparation, or cooking. It happens right in the grocery store, when people choose a package of frozen fish without paying close attention to how it's packaged. This mistake involves something called the protective glaze. If you have ever purchased frozen fish, shrimp, or other seafood, you may have noticed a thin layer of ice coating the surface of the fillets. This is not accidental. It is intentionally added by seafood processors and is known as a protective ice glaze. The purpose of this glaze is actually helpful. Frozen fish can lose quality during storage if the surface of the flesh becomes exposed to cold air inside the freezer. This exposure can cause freezer burn, which dries out the fish and damages its flavor and texture. To prevent this, manufacturers apply a thin layer of ice around the fish before packaging it. This icy coating acts as a protective shield, sealing in moisture and protecting the fish from the harsh environment of the freezer. So the glaze itself isn't harmful. In fact, it helps preserve the quality of the fish during shipping and storage. However, there is something many shoppers don't realize. That layer of ice adds weight to the product. When a frozen fish package lists its total weight, the number printed on the label may include both the fish and the protective ice coating. In some cases, that glaze can represent 10 to 20% of the total package weight. This means you may be paying for a portion of ice rather than actual fish. For example, if a package weighs 1 pound, a noticeable percentage of that weight might melt away as water once the fish thaws. If you are planning meals or comparing prices between brands, this difference can make it seem like you are buying more fish than you actually are. The solution is simple. Take a moment to read the packaging carefully. Many labels will mention whether the fish has been glazed or water protected. Some brands even list the net weight of the fish after the glaze is removed. Understanding this small detail can help you make more accurate comparisons between products and ensure you're getting the value you expect. While the glaze itself helps protect the fish during freezing, being aware of it allows you to shop more wisely and plan your meals more accurately. Now that we've explored the 5 major mistakes people make with frozen fish, from thawing and preparation to cooking and buying the right product, let's quickly review the key lessons so they stay fresh in your mind the next time you cook seafood at home. Final conclusion: small changes that protect the nutrition in your fish. Frozen fish can be one of the most convenient and nutritious foods you can keep in your kitchen. It's affordable, easy to store, and packed with the nutrients many health experts recommend for adults over 60. Fish provides high-quality protein, heart-protective omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, and essential minerals that support the brain, joints, muscles, and cardiovascular system. When prepared correctly, it can be one of the best foods for maintaining strength, mobility, and overall health as we age. But as we've seen today, the way fish is handled, thawed, prepared, and cooked makes a huge difference. Many people unintentionally reduce the quality of their fish by making small, everyday mistakes. Thawing fish at room temperature, rushing the process with hot water, cooking it at excessive heat, or choosing low-quality frozen products can all affect texture, safety, and nutrient retention. The good news is that these mistakes are easy to avoid once you know what to look for. Simply remember these 5 key principles. Thaw frozen fish safely in the refrigerator or under cold running water. Remove surface moisture before cooking and allow fish to rest briefly afterward. Cook fish with moderate heat and avoid overcooking to preserve moisture and omega-3 nutrients. Choose high-quality frozen fish, preferably products labeled IQF. Pay attention to packaging details like protective glaze and true product weight. By making these small adjustments, you can transform frozen fish from an ordinary freezer staple into a delicious, nutritious meal that truly supports your health. And remember, healthy aging isn't about complicated diets or expensive supplements. Often, it comes down to simple daily habits and smarter food preparation choices. Now we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever made any of these frozen fish cooking mistakes? Or do you have a favorite way of preparing fish at home? Share your experience in the comments below. Your tip might help someone else cook healthier meals too. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Ageless Vitality for more practical, science-based nutrition tips designed to help you stay strong, active, and independent after 60. And as always, thank you for taking a few minutes today to invest in your health.